Memphis. Tennessee has a violent crime rate of 2,501 per 100,000 people, the highest in the country. In 2024, over 12,500 aggravated assaults and 2,138 robberies. Your car isn't safe either. 2,550 vehicles stolen per 100,000 residents. But Memphis isn't just a crime story, it's a city sliced in half. In 1957, planners wanted to ram Interstate 40 through Overton Park, a 342-acre green space with a zoo and the stage where Elvis played his first paid concert. Citizens collected 10,000 signatures and fought the plan to the Supreme Court. They won in 1971. But decades of racial zoning, redlining, and white flight had already carved Memphis into two cities. Drive from East Memphis to South Memphis and you'll feel it. Tree-lined streets on one side, concentrated poverty on the other. That invisible wall didn't build itself. San Bernardino, California went broke. Officially broke. In August 2012, the city filed for bankruptcy with over $1 billion in debt. At the time, the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history. Detroit took that record a year later, but San Bernardino held it first. Financial mismanagement, unsustainable pensions, and the 2008 housing crash hit the city all at once. When the filing happened, 34.6% of residents lived below the poverty line. That made it the poorest city of its size in California and second poorest in the country after Detroit. Over 40% were on public assistance. The closing of Norton Air Force Base in 1994 had already wiped out 10,000 jobs, and the city never recovered. The bankruptcy lasted nearly 5 years. If you think your city's budget is bad, San Bernardino didn't emerge until February 2017. Today, the poverty rate has dropped to about 19%. But better than bankrupt isn't exactly a welcome sign. Jacksonville, Florida is the largest city by land area in the continental United States. Not the most populated, the biggest, about 747 square miles. Chicago is 234, Miami is 56. You could fit 13 Miamis inside Jacksonville. This happened in 1968 when the city merged with Duval County. The vote passed with 65% approval. Overnight, population jumped 163% in the next census. Not because people moved there, they just redrew the lines, but consolidation didn't solve the sprawl. It made it permanent. Over 500 distinct neighborhoods spread across a landscape where density sits at 1,270 people per square mile. Buses can't run efficiently. You need a car for everything. The city has the largest urban park system in America at 80,000 acres. Sounds great until you realize most of it exists because nobody could develop land that far from anything useful. Milwaukee, Wisconsin doesn't look segregated from the highway. Get off the interstate and drive north, then east. Two completely different worlds. The Brookings Institution found that Milwaukee has the highest black-white dissimilarity index of any major metro in America. 0.78. That means 78% of one group would need to move for the city to be racially balanced. Out of 296 census tracts, 260 have a single racial group making up more than 60% of the population. On the near north side, neighborhoods like Arlington Heights are over 90% black. A few miles east, the Upper East Side is over 80% white. This wasn't random. In the 1930s, redlining drew the map. In 1960, the city was 91% white at peak population of 741,324. Today, it's 577,000. The lines haven't moved. 3 out of 4 black residents would need to relocate to create integrated neighborhoods. If you've ever driven through Milwaukee, you've seen the line. Nobody put up a sign. They didn't need to. Tulsa, Oklahoma had one of the most prosperous black business districts in America. Greenwood. People called it Black Wall Street. By 1921, it had 2 newspapers, a hospital, a library, and 191 businesses. Then on May 31st, a white mob attacked. Over 18 hours, 35 city blocks burned. More than 1,256 homes were destroyed along with virtually every structure in the district. Churches, schools, businesses, the hospital, all of it. Over 800 people were treated for injuries, and nearly 10,000 lost everything they owned. Authorities detained over 6,000 in holding centers, some for up to 8 days. The property damage totaled $2.2 million 1921 dollars, roughly $40 million today. Insurance companies refused to pay. And the damage wasn't just physical. An NBER study found the destruction reduced black home ownership by 4.2 percentage points, and those effects grew over time, still measurable in 2000. Greenwood was eventually rebuilt, but the erased wealth never came back. The event barely appeared in history books until the 1990s. Your city's worst planning failure is probably a bad roundabout. Tulsa's was the deliberate erasure of an entire economy. Birmingham, Alabama has a highway that tells you everything about the city's past. Pull up an aerial photo and you'll see Interstate 20 and 59 make a sharp, inexplicable bend through downtown. That wasn't engineering, it was politics. In the 1950s and 60s, planners deliberately routed the interstate through a thriving black neighborhood where civil rights leaders organized. The highway preserved racial boundaries from Birmingham's 1926 zoning laws. Across the state, Highway Director Sam Engelhardt, who also led the White Citizens Council, personally rerouted I 65 through black neighborhoods in Montgomery. Ralph Abernathy warned Kennedy the route would destroy one of the best black neighborhoods in the South. It happened anyway. Nationally, highway construction displaced over 475,000 households. Birmingham wasn't unique, just one city in a pattern repeated everywhere. The highways weren't built through black neighborhoods by coincidence. They were aimed at them. Hartford, Connecticut is the capital of one of America's wealthiest states, also the poorest city in it. Hartford's median household income sits at $41,000. The state average is $90,000. Over a quarter of residents live below the poverty line. Drive 15 minutes to West Hartford, and you're in some of the wealthiest zip codes in the country. In the 1870s, Hartford was called the richest city in the United States. Insurance giants like Aetna held enough assets to rebuild Chicago after the 1871 fire. Now, homeownership is 24%. Between 1990 and 1994, the city lost 11.1% of its population, the steepest drop of any large American city. The insurance companies are still technically headquartered nearby, but the money commutes in from the suburbs and leaves every evening. Hartford gets the Capitol building. The suburbs get everything else. Camden, New Jersey was ranked the most dangerous city in America so many times it stopped making headlines. In 2012, the FBI put it at number 1 for violent crime among cities over 50,000, 12 times the national average. Then in 2013, Camden did something nobody expected. Fired its entire police force, dissolved the department, and replaced it with a county-run force focused on community policing. Officers walked neighborhoods and learned names instead of cruising with windows up. By 2025, serious violent offenses dropped 75%. Robberies down 76%, burglaries down 72%. Camden recorded its first violence-free summer in 50 years. The backstory makes this wilder. After World War II, the city lost its industrial base. Campbell's Soup and RCA Victor left. The shipyard closed in 1967. A freeway displaced 1,289 families, 85% non-white. By 2012, over half the population lived below the poverty line while cops earned $140,000 a year. Camden was the textbook for urban collapse. Now it's becoming the textbook for something you wouldn't believe could happen in the same city. Stockton, California beat San Bernardino to bankruptcy by 2 weeks, June 2012. Chapter 9. Briefly the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history. The causes were almost comically bad. During boom years, the city handed out unsustainable pensions, built flashy projects, and let services rot. When housing crashed, Stockton was ground zero. Forbes named it America's most miserable city in 2011. During proceedings, the city laid off 20% of police, gutted public works by 38%, and slashed recreation staff by more than half. Fire budget dropped from $59 million to $40 million. Stockton exited bankruptcy in 2015, but the crosstown freeway still cuts the city in two. South of it, crumbling sidewalks and vacant lots. North, a different story entirely. That's redlining written in concrete. Between 1979 and 2016, federal neighborhood funding across the country dropped 80%. Cities like Stockton felt it worst. If you live in one of those 322,000 households today, 15.5% of your neighbors are still below the poverty line. Bakersfield, California has the worst air in America. Not California. America. The American Lung Association ranked it number 1 for year-round particle pollution 5 straight years. The city averaged 18.8 micrograms per cubic meter of PM 2.5, more than double the federal standard. Third worst for ozone, behind only Los Angeles and Visalia. Why? Bakersfield sits at the bottom of the San Joaquin Valley, a giant bowl rimmed by mountains. Pollution from farming, trucking, and oil extraction gets trapped and hangs there. Kern County produces 3/4 of California's oil and is the second largest oil-producing county in the entire country. 1 in 7 jobs is tied to petroleum. 1 in 5 is agricultural. The main refinery has racked up 171 Clean Air Act violations since 2015. Schools use colored flags to warn kids about air quality. Green means safe. Red means stay inside. They added a purple flag because some days are worse than red. EV adoption in Kern County is 11%, less than half the state average. The wells aren't closing. The sprawl keeps going. Your lungs don't stand a chance. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.